All right, welcome to this explainer. I want you to think about the most mundane, invisible item sitting right now in your bathroom. It's so ordinary, right? You probably haven't even given it a second thought today. But what if I told you that that simple little block hides a history of medical miracles, invisible warfare, and some of the darkest, most twisted mysteries in human history?
So let me ask you this. What is humanity's most powerful, life-saving chemical weapon that costs almost nothing? It's not some highly classified military technology. Nope. It is actually a simple bar of soap. We are going to see how this humble item has actually saved more lives than penicillin, vaccines, or any other miracle drug we've ever created.
Section 1. The cheapest weapon.
Okay, so to really understand the true value of soap, we kind of have to strip away our modern comforts and step back into a pretty gritty reality. I mean, looking at a boring 50-cent bar of soap sitting by the sink, it doesn't exactly scream chemical weapon, does it? It's cheap, it's quiet, and it's practically invisible in our daily routines. But wow, just wait until you see the absolute horrors of a world that didn't know how to use it.
Picture this. It's the 19th century, and the world's top surgeons are operating entirely with bare, unwashed hands. I know, gross, right? A stiff, black surgical coat, literally caked in dried blood and pus from previous patients, wasn't seen as a health hazard. No, it was actually worn as a proud badge of honor, a symbol of experience. Doctors would routinely walk straight from dissecting infected cadavers in the morgue right over to delivering babies in the maternity ward, and they did this without ever sanitizing their hands.
Section 2. The tragedy of truth. So that deadly loop from the morgue, it set the stage for one of the greatest tragedies in medical history, an epidemic known as childbed fever. It was such a terrifying death sentence that pregnant women would literally beg on their hands and knees to give birth in the filthy streets rather than be admitted to a hospital. And the numbers were just baffling. Take the Vienna General Hospital in the 1840s. They had 2 maternity wards. Clinic 1, which was run by male doctors and medical students, had a staggering mortality rate of up to 18%. But right next door, Clinic 2, run entirely by female midwives, their mortality rate was under 2%. Well, a young doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis started observing this, and he correctly deduced that invisible cadaverous particles from the morgue were basically hitching a ride on the doctor's hand.
Semmelweis is really the tragic savior of this whole story. In 1847, he established a historic mandate. He basically forced all the doctors to wash their hands with a chlorinated lime solution before they even touched a patient. And guess what? The mortality rate immediately plummeted from 18% to just over 1%. Huge success, right? Well, actually, scratch that. Instead of being hailed as a hero, he was mocked. He was laughed at. The medical elite of the time were incredibly offended by the mere implication that an upper-class gentleman's hands could ever be considered dirty. So he was fired, ostracized, and ultimately suffered a mental breakdown, dying in an insane asylum. And the world just turned its back on the cure, plunging right back into the Dark Ages.
Section 3. The pathogen destroyer. It wasn't until Louis Pasteur came along and proved the germ theory in the late 19th century that the scientific community finally realized Semmelweis was absolutely right. The killer wasn't some bad air or a curse. It was microscopic organisms hiding literally everywhere. And to defeat them, the true mechanical genius of soap finally got its time to shine. Let's talk about how it works on a microscopic level because it's fascinating. Soap is an amphiphile. Think of a soap molecule like a tiny chemical pin. It has a water-loving or hydrophilic head that desperately wants to bond with water, and a fat-loving or lipophilic tail that is super attracted to oils and grease. Since oil and water notoriously do not mix, this unique molecule acts as the perfect chemical bridge between 2 warring worlds. And here is where soap turns from just a simple cleaner into an absolute destroyer. Soap doesn't just gently wash pathogens away, it actively executes them. See, many of the most dangerous viruses in human history, things like HIV, Ebola, and Corona, are protected by an outer layer made of fat. Now, to the soap molecules, this fat isn't armor at all, it's a giant target. Step 1. Those fat-loving tails pierce and stab directly into the virus's lipid membrane, almost like tiny crowbars. Step 2. As you rub your hands together, the friction causes the structural integrity of the virus to catastrophically fail, completely ripping the membrane apart. And then, Step 3. Total deactivation. The virus literally shatters into harmless little pieces long before the water even rinses it down the drain.
The impact of realizing this and actually implementing basic hand hygiene was nothing short of a medical miracle. Integrating daily hand washing into society became the single greatest driver in doubling human life expectancy. I mean, we went from a global life expectancy of about 35 years in 1900 to over 75 years by the year 2000. So while antibiotics heroically hunt down bacteria after an infection, saving hundreds of millions of people, soap acts as the ultimate pre-infection shield, literally saving billions.
Section 4. The mystery of grave wax.
Okay, we need to pivot a bit here. We've established soap as an absolute lifesaver, but this explainer is about the paradox of soap. Because the exact same chemical reaction that protects the living, well, it does something completely bizarre to the dead. So let me ask you a question that might make you view the ground beneath your feet a bit differently. What happens when human fat meets damp, alkaline soil in a dark, oxygen-deprived grave?
The answer is a pretty macabre natural phenomenon called saponification. When a body is buried in anaerobic, damp, and alkaline environments, think places with lots of clay or limestone soil, the normal decomposition process basically just halts. The body's natural fat hydrolyzes into calcium, magnesium, or iron soap. This substance is scientifically known as adipocerate, but colloquially people just call it grave wax. The flesh doesn't decay at all. Instead, it transforms into this hard, grayish-white waxy solid. And yeah, it emits a very specific, foul smell that's kind of like old cheese. In essence, the body turns into a permanent soap statue.
And historical forensics are just full of these incredible discoveries. Back in 1786, workers at the Holy Innocent Cemetery in Paris were absolutely shocked to find entire bodies that had turned to soap. Then in 1875, the famous soap lady was discovered, and you can actually still see her today at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. Or how about in 1913? The Higgins brothers were found in a flooded quarry in Scotland. Their bodies had completely turned to soap, which perfectly preserved their trauma wounds, and that actually allowed forensic scientists to identify them and hang their killer. Fast forward to 1998, archaeologists in France dug up a 13th century infant's brain that had completely saponified, preserving its neural structure perfectly down to the cellular level. I mean, no way, right? That is just wild.
Section 5. The dark rumors.
Now, nature organically creating grave wax is one thing, but we really have to look at the dark, intentional history of humans exploiting this process. Tracking this on the timeline here, back in the 16th century, executioners actually collected fat from executed criminals and sold it as a medical panacea to treat bone pain and gout. Yeah, for real. By the late 19th and early 20th century over in Germany, human fat was routinely collected from surgical amputations and autopsies, sterilized and sold commercially under the brand name Humanol. Doctors in 1909 were literally injecting it to soften scars, basically treating it like modern dermal fillers. Fortunately, by the 1920s, Humanol was banned because injecting fat carried a massive risk of causing fatal blood clots and embolisms.
But there are also horrific cases where saponification was intentionally weaponized by individuals. Enter Leonarda Ciancilli, a notorious Italian serial killer in the late 1930s. She was driven by this deeply superstitious belief that she needed human sacrifices to protect her son who was heading off to join the army in World War II. So she lured 3 women into her home and murdered them with an axe. She then took their bodies, added caustic soda, boiled the whole mixture into a thick, dark paste, tossed in some perfume, and literally created bars of soap out of them. And the most chilling part? She actually gifted these human soap bars to her neighbors and acquaintances.
And this naturally brings us to the most infamous rumors of the 20th century. During World War I, British intelligence actively fabricated propaganda claiming there were German corpse factories rendering human fat into soap. This was specifically designed to outrage the Chinese public and draw them into the war. Then, in World War II, horrific rumors surfaced again, this time about industrial-scale Nazi soap stamped with the letters RIF. Now, to be clear, historians have definitively proven that the industrial mass production of RIF soap was a total myth. However, post-war investigations did find that Dr. Spanner's Danzig Anatomical Institute inadvertently produced a small amount of human soap as a byproduct during the anatomical process into bodies. It remains a very grim testament to the absolute dehumanization of war.
Moving into the modern era, this visceral concept still really fascinates and disturbs us, and it's often used to critique our society. Take the 1999 film Fight Club, for instance. The character Tyler Durden famously breaks into liposuction clinics to steal human fat, making luxury soap to sell right back to the very wealthy people who paid to have it removed. A super biting critique on consumerism. Then in 2016, performance artist Julian Hetzel created an installation using soap made from voluntarily donated human fat, just to question the boundary between humans and commodities. But today, rest assured, legally speaking, human fat is treated strictly as biohazardous medical waste and is safely incinerated.
And this brilliantly brings our explainer full circle. As this final quote points out, a single chemical reaction both protects our fragile lives and bizarrely preserves our identities in death. So the next time you wash your hands, take a moment to look at that 50-cent bar sitting by the sink. You are quite literally commanding a microscopic army that has shaped the entire trajectory of human life, bought with the tragedies and mysteries of history. It kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other ordinary, everyday objects in our lives are hiding secrets this profound?